In the lobby of Fontainebleau, Miami Beach, an iconic hotel, I was denied entry despite wearing a $1,400 suit, holding a spouse on the guest list card, and having played a role in funding the dinner. The individual who refused me entry was hotel security. I, Spencer Caldwell, aged 45, am the owner of Caldwell Creative Group, an event production company based in Miami, Florida. For 16 years, I have been constructing stages, arranging vendors, and overseeing lighting rigs to ensure seamless events for others. My wife, Renata, is a senior vice president at Hargrove and Lane Hospitality Consulting Firm. Upon hearing, "Sorry, you're not invited," "Leave," I hesitated, and security physically escorted me out of the building. 15 years ago, on a chilly Thursday in late October, their company held its anniversary gala. 400 guests were present, catered by a Michelin-starred team with an open bar and live music. Despite my involvement, I found myself on the wrong side of a velvet rope, waiting for a security guard to ask me to leave. In what follows, I will recount every detail of that night's events, culminating in the decisive actions I took, spoken not once above a whisper. The consequences were 36 missed calls, a canceled vacation, a ruined birthday party, and an unexpected visitor at my doorstep. Before delving into it, let me address the newcomers. Don't forget to subscribe. These tales are lengthy for a reason. Every detail is crucial. Post your thoughts below on what you would have done in that lobby. Press like if you've ever felt invisible at the hands of someone who was supposed to support you. Now, let's proceed. 11 years ago at a product launch event in Perez Art Museum, Wynwood, we first crossed paths. I was the organizer, she represented her client. We collided near the catering area, causing her to spill champagne on me, which she quickly apologized for in a humorous yet sincere manner that left me momentarily taken aback and laughing for the first time that evening. After 2 years of dating, we exchanged vows at a small wedding in Coral Gables, attended by 40 guests and a personal acquaintance caterer. Our home in Coconut Grove boasted 3 bedrooms, a pool, and centuries-old oak trees in the backyard. We nurtured a genuine relationship over time. Renata is exceptionally intelligent. I emphasize this fact clearly and honestly even now, despite all that has transpired. Her strategic acumen ranks among the sharpest I have encountered. She possesses the ability to enter a room, gauge the nuances within it in mere minutes, and skillfully navigate herself appropriately. This talent set her apart as an exceptional professional, propelling her from a mid-level consultant to senior VP in just 6 years. The staff at Hargrove and Lane held her in high regard, frequently turning to her when client relationships faced challenges. She was adept at resolving issues and making problems seemingly vanish. For quite some time, I underestimated the fact that some of those problems she handled were actually related to me. Allow me to elaborate. Approximately 3 years into her tenure at Hargrove and Lane, the corporate culture transformed. The firm appointed a new managing director, Adrian Alcaffer, who held particular views on leadership representation. She advocated for polished, uniform appearances that reflected the right image. Adrian hailed from a sphere where personal aspects such as one's spouse, residence, and social circle played significant roles in professional branding. Renata fully embraced these ideals. The alterations were subtle at first. She began correcting me in front of her coworkers on seemingly trivial matters. The manner of my name pronunciation, a joke perceived as misfired, an opinion unanticipated, these were reasons she avoided referencing my company at professional gatherings. She explained with deliberate care that event production seemed blue-collar to those unaware. I chose to overlook it. I reassured myself she was under stress. I convinced myself she was constructing something significant and could endure my patience. What I didn't acknowledge was that forbearance comes at a price, and I had been unwittingly shouldering it for years without ever scrutinizing the bill. The 15-year anniversary gala for Hargrove and Lane was meticulously planned for 8 months. I was informed due to Renata's incessant talk about it. Details such as venue selection, attendee count, culinary discussions, seating arrangements. She was on the planning committee. Approximately 4 months before the event, something noteworthy transpired in my professional sphere. The Fontainebleau, Miami Beach, the venue Hargrove and Lane had reserved, contacted me directly. They were reorganizing their internal event production contracts and requested Caldwell Creative Group for AV setup evaluation. We eventually finalized a 6-month consulting contract. Prior to the gala night, I had frequented that building in a professional capacity on various occasions. I shared this with Renata, who reacted with a tight smile and shifted the topic. 2 months before the event, she casually mentioned the gala during a conversation in our Coconut Grove kitchen, stating, "The senior leadership team has a +1 policy for the gala. I've been contemplating whether to invite you." I recall putting down my coffee. "Contemplating," I repeated. "It's a work event, Spencer. The dynamics are complex. Renata, I'm your husband. I am aware of that." She looked straight at me. "I merely want to ensure you comprehend the atmosphere. It's meticulously polished and precise. Adrian will be there. The board will be available. I must stay focused. You're a potential distraction." I didn't reply. "It wasn't necessary." We postponed the discussion. She added me to the guest list. She informed me about the dress code, formal attire, told me the event commenced at 7 p.m., instructed me to meet her there due to early setup responsibilities. She suggested we attend together, expressing her enthusiasm for it. I trusted her. I splurged $1,400 on a custom-made suit from a boutique on Miracle Mile. I got a haircut. I purchased calla lilies, her favorite bloom, intending to present them upon my arrival. I reserved a table for two at Stubborn Seed the upcoming Saturday to commemorate, as she'd been working diligently, and I wished to express my pride in her. I navigated to Fontainebleau on a Thursday evening in late October, parked my vehicle, strolled through the lobby in a tailored suit, holding calla lilies, and provided my name at the reception desk. The young, professional woman at the table, clutching a clipboard, scanned the list twice before looking at me. "I'm sorry, sir," she apologized. "There seems to be no Spencer Caldwell on this list." I remained composed, attributing the situation to an administrative oversight. "Perhaps you could look under my wife's name? Renata Caldwell is part of the leadership team," I suggested. She rechecked the list and replied, "Renata Caldwell is listed as senior staff, but there's no +1 associated with her reservation." "That's not correct," she informed me. "Could someone get hold of her? She should be inside." The woman seemed uneasy and left to make a discreet call. Returning 2 minutes later, she said, "I've been advised that the guest list is final. I apologize." "Who provided this information?" I almost inquired. However, just as I was about to ask, a man in a black blazer appeared by my side. He identified himself as hotel security, specifically Derek. Polite, professionally trained, devoid of any personal touch, he represented the hotel's security. "I must request you to retreat from the registration point," I stated, looking at Derek and then the woman with the clipboard. The grand lobby of Fontainebleau, with its marble floors, glimmering chandelier, and throng of people in formal attire, moving towards an event I was supposedly invited to, filled my vision. "I'm associated with this hotel," I whispered. "I have a consulting deal here." Derek responded calmly, "I comprehend, but without your name on the guest list, I can't grant you access." At that moment, a voice came from behind me. "Spencer." I turned around to see Renata emerging from the event. She was adorned in an extraordinary emerald gown, and her hair and makeup were impeccable. She looked stunning yet mortified, not due to this happening to me, but because I seemed unable to move. "Renata," I asked, "what's happening?" She approached me, lowering her voice. "1, I attempted to reach you this afternoon. 2, you didn't answer my call. 3, Spencer, it's inopportune. 4, I was informed you were on the guest list. 5, her jaw stiffened. She cast a glance behind her, and I followed her line of sight. About 20 feet away at the entrance to the event venue, a woman was observing us. Mid-50s, elegantly dressed, with no visible emotions. Adrian Ockaffer, the managing director, watching. 6, Renata faced me again. Her voice grew softer still. "I apologize. The ruling came from higher up. You can't be present tonight." 7, higher up, I echoed. "The issue was about," she interrupted herself. "The matter involved concerns over image." 8, image. I stood motionless for a moment. I looked at her, then at the flowers in my hand, calla lilies intended for her, and felt a distinct sensation within me. Not an outburst, not a collapse, something subtle and lasting. I placed the flowers on the check-in counter. 9, understood, I said. I spun around and exited. I parked my vehicle outside. I journeyed home to Coconut Grove. I remained parked in my driveway for roughly 15 minutes. I wish to express honestly what I experienced during those 15 minutes, as I believe it's significant. It wasn't fury, it was sorrow. Yet a sobering sadness. The type that surfaces when something you had partially presumed is finally verified. When the thing you kept telling yourself wasn't real turns out to be as true as you dreaded. Renata held me in contempt, not sporadically, not during hidden moments of irritation, fundamentally, systematically, as a rule. She had excluded me from a guest list I was entitled to attend because my presence, amidst the people whose opinions she valued most, was a burden, not a potential hazard. A burden. That term echoed in my mind as I sat in the driveway. Burden. I ventured indoors. I measured out 2 fingers of bourbon. I settled at my makeshift home office, previously the guest bedroom transformed for my remote work 3 days a week. I powered up my laptop, determined not to let frustration win by screaming or reaching out to her. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. Neither would I bring family members into this yet. Instead, I would approach it logically. Identify the key areas of control, weigh options, and act accordingly. This is a skill developed through business ownership. Emotion is data, not directives. You sense it, jot it down, and then take action. I logged into our shared financial accounts, where Renata and I pooled resources for household costs and mutual obligations, joint expenses like vacations, home repairs, and subscriptions. Separate from these were my business accounts, of course. However, the joint account held substantial mutual responsibilities, and I had full control over it. I retrieved a list of all automatic payments, recurring charges, and scheduled expenses linked to that account. Upon reviewing and making decisions, I found the following details. First, Renata's birthday party was scheduled in 6 weeks at Ariat in Coconut Grove with 14 guests, a set menu, and an open wine tab. The estimated total cost was around $4,800. I canceled the reservation at Ariat the next morning, politely informing them of the change in plans, and received my deposit back within a week. Second, we had been planning a trip to the Amalfi Coast for nearly 2 years, with flights, hotels, and a private boat excursion out of Positano booked. I canceled this trip. I organized everything as she had said, word for word. You excel at this more than I do. You make everything flawless. The total trip expense was approximately $22,000, which I covered entirely from our shared account. I contacted the travel agency we'd used, a firm in Brickell with whom I had collaborated for years, and initiated the cancellation procedure. Since I booked through them on a flexible rate and acquired travel insurance, I received around $17,400 back. The remainder was non-refundable, but it was an expense I was ready to bear. Thirdly, a home renovation project we had hired someone for. We were redoing the main bathroom with new tile, new fixtures, and custom cabinetry. The contractor, named Troy, whom I'd used twice before, was set to start in 3 weeks. The contract worth was $31,000. We had already paid a deposit of $9,000. I phoned Troy, disclosed that we were putting the project on hold indefinitely, and requested he save the deposit as a credit for future tasks. Agreeing was Troy, who had a strong rapport with me and knew I'd provide him more business, making it so. Fourthly, various minor expenditures were addressed. A premium meal delivery service subscription Renata employed cost $380 monthly. Tickets to a charity gala she expressed interest in attending in December amounted to $1,200 for 2. A hotel booking in the Keys for New Year's Eve totaled $2,600. A personal training package she had initiated and charged to our joint account was $3,400. All canceled, paused, or reallocated. The approximate worth of my canceled, paused, or redirected commitments was $62,000. I wish to clarify that I did not make these decisions out of anger or in a petty, immature manner. Instead, I needed to have a clear financial picture, presented in numbers, of how much of what we referred to as our shared life I was actually funding. After calculating that, I realized I needed to adjust those resources to align with reality, as it turned out the setup was structurally flawed. I reached out to my lawyer, not for filing any case, but simply to seek advice on my current situation. Then I switched off my phone, prepared dinner, watched a long-awaited movie, and slept. My phone remained off throughout the night. I reactivated it at 6:30 in the morning while making coffee. 36 missed calls, 14 text messages, and 3 voicemails awaited me. Renata had called 8 times between 11 p.m. and midnight upon returning home from the gala, apparently concerned when she found I wasn't there. Later, she called 6 more times between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., likely when the cancellation notifications began reaching her. The travel agency and restaurant would have sent email confirmations. The messages varied from "Spencer, where are you?" to "I'm worried" to "What did you do?" and finally "Call me right now. This is overwhelming." Read all messages but replied to none. Additionally, there were 3 calls from an unrecognized number with a 305 area code, Miami, yet no contact saved in my phone. Ignored those as well. Attended gym and had a rigorous session at a South Miami facility I've been visiting for 4 years. Informed my trainer about my tough week and the need to push hard. We did so. drove home, showered, answered 2 urgent work emails. At 11:45 a.m., my doorbell rang. Checking the security camera feed on my phone, I found a woman on my Coconut Grove front porch that I wasn't anticipating. It wasn't Renata, but Claudia Brennan, an events director at Hargrove and Lane and a fellow planning committee member with Renata. Later learned she was the one who had made the call regarding the guest list. Opened the door to find her there. Claudia Brennan, approximately 45 years old, was neatly dressed and organized, hinting at a rigid routine. She wasn't in work attire. Instead, she was in jeans and a blazer, implying an unscheduled visit. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm Claudia Brennan. I work with Renata," she said. I acknowledged her introduction. She seemed uneasy. "May I enter?" After a brief pause, I stepped aside to allow her entry. We found ourselves in the living room. I refrained from offering coffee and opted for silence instead. Claudia continued, "I want to be straightforward because I believe you deserve it. The incident last night was my choice, not Adrian's or Renata's." I gazed at her, waiting for an explanation. She gathered herself before speaking. It transpired that Adrian had mentioned 2 weeks prior that the event should have a controlled atmosphere and a focus on leadership. Brennan interpreted this as a command to keep things limited. "Renata had already submitted your name as her +1. I removed it." "You didn't inform her about it, believing it was the appropriate action for the occasion." The room fell silent, heavy with significance. "You omitted my name from the list without consulting my wife." "Yes, and when Renata informed me at the lobby that I wasn't included, she was just as bewildered." Claudia shut her eyes momentarily. "I'm not sure what she knew, but I've attempted to contact her this morning as well. However, there are a few things I am certain of. The way the security situation was handled, asking you to leave, was utterly unacceptable. You are her husband, a guest, and have worked with the Fontainebleau professionally. I'm ashamed by how that transpired." I sat back in my chair, gazing at the ceiling for a moment before meeting her eyes again. "Claudia, I acknowledge your visit here. It requires courage to stand at someone's doorstep and express what you've just said." "But," she replied, "understanding something is crucial. Whether it was your decision or Adrian's or Renata's, the result remains the same. In a hotel lobby where I have a work agreement, I was asked to depart by security. That's the result. The backstory doesn't alter the end result." She acknowledged with a nod. "And the predicament you're encountering," I elaborated, "is not just about one single night. Isn't that obvious? One night is a manifestation. What transpired last night was the most vivid illustration of a pattern I've observed developing over 3 years." Claudia remained silent for a while, then stated, "What are your plans?" "I am still deciding," I responded. "I'm in the midst of determining that." She rose from her seat. She dug into her bag and offered me a card. "I will confront Adrian and our HR department about this matter. Regardless of all else, your professional status, your contract with the venue, you were mistreated, and that needs to be formally recognized." I accepted the card. I escorted her to the door. Following her departure, I stood in my living room for a prolonged period. At 1 p.m., Renata entered the house. Possessing a key, she stepped inside. In the kitchen, she encountered me. Her appearance suggested she hadn't slept. The evening makeup was absent. She wore hastily thrown-on clothes. In the kitchen doorway, she fixed her gaze on me, displaying an expression that I had never witnessed on her face, a blend of anger attempting to surface but repeatedly faltering into something less controlled than anger. "You canceled the Amalfi trip," she stated. "Yes, I did." "You called off my birthday dinner," she added. "Yes, I did." "Spencer," she uttered, her voice breaking at my name. "Why?" I put down the glass in my hand and turned to face her completely. "Because last night," I said, "I sat in our driveway for 15 minutes struggling to recall a significant shared endeavor that you had instigated, organized, and financed, and I couldn't. I began contemplating the duration of you gradually excluding me from your life through subtle means, and I struggled to recall instances where you publicly supported or praised me, anything beyond subdued acknowledgments of my presence. It dawned on me that I had been financially sustaining a lifestyle that did not fully acknowledge me. I contemplated, if this is the agreement, then I should cease funding the aspects advantageous to you and see what remains." The kitchen was silent. "That's unfair," she protested. "The Fontainebleau lobby wasn't fair," I replied. "I didn't realize Claudia removed your name from the list." "Renata," I halted her. "For 3 years you've been removing me from lists. What Claudia did was merely a literal representation of it." She winced. "I won't feign," I said, "that a mere apology from Claudia or a single discussion with HR will rectify the underlying issue here. For the past 3 years, you formed an opinion about who I am and my worth without consulting me, and acted on it without informing me. I allowed this because of my love for you and my trust in you, despite the fact that the reality I perceived wasn't what I expected. I love you, she said. I know you do, I replied, but your love, which is contingent on me remaining unseen, is not a kind I can sustain. She took a seat at the kitchen table and buried her face in her hands. We remained silent for quite some time. I won't claim this story had a tidy ending because it didn't. Life doesn't. What I will share, though, is what unfolded over the following 2 months, as it's relevant. Claudia Brennan carried out her promise. She submitted an official incident report to Hargrove and Lane's HR department detailing the events at the gala. Upon being summoned to respond, Adrian Ockhaffer reportedly became enraged. The issue wasn't with Claudia, but the fact it was labeled as an incident. In their pursuit of a polished, controlled professional persona, they created a significantly larger problem than a shy spouse at a gathering. I received a formal, written apology from the firm. Independently, the Fontainebleau contacted me through their events team. The security manager himself reached out to me. Given my consulting role with the property, they were worried about the incident. They proposed and I agreed to a revised contract renewal. The security manager was deeply embarrassed. Derek, the guard who escorted me, also felt mortified when he discovered my identity. I bore no ill will towards Derek. He was just doing his duty with the knowledge available. Renata and I started couples therapy 3 weeks after the gala. I must admit that I wasn't hopeful at the start. I agreed to attend because I thought it was fair to both of us to attempt to comprehend what had transpired before making any irrevocable choices. In our therapy sessions, I found that Renata's internalization of Adrian's perceptions about me ran deeper than I initially realized. She didn't intentionally feel ashamed of me. Rather, she had been subtly conditioned to view me as a potential professional risk. This mindset influenced her decisions without her fully acknowledging it. While this doesn't make it acceptable, it does offer an explanation. Our therapy journey continues, and I can't predict where we'll end up. I won't claim we resolved everything in 60 days because that would be misleading, and you deserve truthfulness. The birthday dinner wasn't at Ariette. Instead, we celebrated quietly at home, enjoying food I prepared. She expressed it was the best birthday she's had in years, and I trusted her words. Our Amalfi Coast trip remains on the calendar, postponed but not canceled for the following spring. I rearranged it with terms that reflect the equal partnership I desire, not a favor being granted. The bathroom renovation has recommenced. Troy began working on it 2 weeks ago. Renata selected the tiles personally. Upon returning home, she demonstrated the samples with a thoughtful, precise eagerness that I recognized as her trying to involve me rather than dictate to me. This was a minor action. I acknowledged it. At 45 years old, I've dedicated my career to making others' endeavors appear effortless. I am proficient in logistics, contingency planning, and the costs involved in creating something aesthetically pleasing and seamless. What I have struggled to grasp is that some of these skills made me seem readily available for taking for granted. I organize, adapt, and address issues before they surface. I have been applying this approach in my marriage as well, and I hadn't fully perceived that Renata viewed the results as inherent rather than cultivated, something she felt entitled to instead of something I decided to construct. In the lobby, attired in a $1,400 suit and carrying flowers, escorted out by security, my long-prepared emergency response materialized at last. The crisis I had silently prepared for over years, finally revealing itself rather than lingering invisible. I am thankful I didn't protest. I am grateful for my quiet exit. I am appreciative of the moment when I went home, sat down, and reflected. For what came next, a calculated, deliberate action devoid of spectacle, the first move in 3 years that was self-centered rather than pacifying. 36 unreturned calls signaled something significant. I hadn't been as unseen as I had been conditioned to perceive. The question remains whether the individual on the other end of those calls can recognize me, not when it holds no consequence, but when it demands a sacrifice. I will keep you informed.